So what we're making today is dairy-free ice cream. It's made with some coconut milk, which you can get at any grocery store. I'm just going to make a half portion today, but I will put the full and half for the recipe ingredients. That's what they're called, ingredients that goes in. Down in the description below. I like to have things because it's just the two of us, and it makes it a lot easier for portion control, because otherwise we're both bound to eat the entire thing. And this will make, the full recipe makes a pint and a half, but really 2 pints of ice cream. And I would have I'm gonna go grab my pint real quick to show you. I've got it stored in the freezer. That way it doesn't create ice crystals once we put our ice cream into the freezer. And I mean, it's a pint for ice cream, but you can get these little reusable ones on Amazon, fairly inexpensive. And I can put a link for that in the describlio down below as well. But none of these things are sponsored, so I just want to put that front and forward that nothing is sponsored, but that is where you can find them. They're super handy to have, and you can use them for other things like sorbet. I made some watermelon sorbet a few weeks ago. We're gonna get going on our coconut-free or our coconut ice cream, and what we need is some coconut milk, and I've got my reduced fat here, but you can go with the full fat if you want. It takes a little bit of salt, some vanilla, honey, and of course the cocoa powder. And it's recommended to use not Dutched, and it looks like that's what I'm using. So not Dutched is going to be recommended. And the tools that you're going to want for this are that pint container. So you're going to want to use a blender to incorporate all of your ingredients, and then the stand mixer attachment of an ice cream maker. This recipe can also be used just in a loaf pan and freeze it that way, but you can use an ice cream maker, kind of speed up the process some. That can just be bought separately to go with your stand mixer, whatever brand you got. And if you don't have that, like I said, you can just use a loaf pan. But I'm gonna go ahead and use my ice cream maker because it's super rad, and I love it a lot. So let's get started. We're gonna put in our coconut milk. And you're gonna wanna grab a spoon just to break up the solidified pieces on top. Now you want your coconut milk chilled, just like you have that container, that pint ice cream container chilled as well. That way you're ensuring a cold product as quickly as possible. Now I'm just gonna pour some of this in, and I'm gonna try to incorporate some of the cocoa powder into the can before putting it in. And I'm gonna need a 1/4 cup of this cocoa powder. And that looks about good. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that I don't get a cloud of cocoa powder that's gonna puff up in the stand mixer. And it's not gonna get stuck on the sides either, because if you've ever made like a smoothie or anything in your blender and you get that stuff caked on the side, that's what this would end up being. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I wanted to take some of that coconut milk out to begin with so I could actually get the cocoa powder in there. All right, and that looks about good. That's still gonna cake up some on the side, but hopefully it won't be too bad. All right, and the salt, we're just gonna use a 1/4 of a teaspoon, or eighth of a teaspoon of salt. And I don't have an 1/8 measuring spoon, so I'm going to just kind of eyeball what half would be in this tiny little thing here. Bloop. And you always want to salt things that are even sweet, because it'll bring all the flavors together and make them pop more. Teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/3 of a cup of honey. And you might think, gee, that's a lot of honey that you're putting in there. Well, we're not adding any other sugar. This is going to be our sweetener. And if you want to, you can use agave syrup or maple syrup as well. But I'm going to go ahead and use honey for this guy because I use maple syrup in a lot of my other things. There's the Brussels sprout slaw dressing that I made last week for the party. I made that Brussels sprout slaw, which was really freaking good. And I had a lot of leftover dressing, so I put that on some other salad. I mean, it's salad dressing, you can put on anything you want, but it was super delicious. And then the other thing that I use it for is the overnight oats, which I've actually stopped making for right now. And I've swapped to some sort of cakey bread loaf. I've probably mentioned that before. The overnight or the oatmeal bread that's still carrot cake, and it's still amazingly delicious. It's just a lot easier in the morning because I don't have to make it the night before and prep it. So we've got everything in here. We've got our cocoa powder, our coconut milk, our salt, our vanilla, our honey. I'm not missing anything. No, because this is such a stupid simple recipe. The hardest thing to remember is to put everything in the fridge or freezer beforehand, because I would have shot this a lot earlier in the day, but that's okay. Got some other stuff done. So we're gonna turn on our blender and go. All right, so this did come out a lot better than it did last time because I actually mixed the cocoa powder in with the coconut milk, and I didn't get the poof cloud too bad. And one thing that this recipe does recommend is to taste test your concoction before you go to put it in the ice cream maker, because it's supposed to be closer to dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate, because then we would be using milk, like regular cow's dairy milk. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a little taste. I really like that. And I love dark chocolate, and it doesn't really matter if he wants it, but I know he's going to eat this ice cream because it's chocolate ice cream. Who doesn't want that? Super tasty. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Maybe. Safety first. Okay. And we'll clean up and be back in a hot second. Hello? How you attach? Oh no. Be-doo, 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 be-doo. Ha! Gotcha. Got it. Alright, so I had to pull out the manual for this thing because I forgot how these pieces were supposed to go together. So, there's actually two attachments. There's some like holder piece and then the whipping blade that's like this boxy looking thing. So I'm just going to pull this apart, even though it was a pain in the tuchus to put it together. So it's like a little boxy looking blade thing that goes, it'll sit right inside there, and then this attachment will snap on. I'm doing this for your benefit and mine as well, because Lord knows I'm probably going to forget how to do this next year when I go to make ice cream, and now we'll all have something to reference by. Yes! Awesome. And that's why we keep manuals around too. So, long story short, that's what I spent 5-10 minutes doing. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my ice cream now from the fridge. Stuff it in there to make sure that it stayed cold, and what we're going to do is lock our attachment here, and this is in the perfect pouring vessel. And you're just gonna put this on low. And slowly add it. about 20 minutes. I did read that right. 20 minutes. Now this won't be a 20-minute video. Don't worry about that. But we will be back in about half the time to take a look. Because I'm not going to make you sit around and watch that. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes. We'll take a peek, see what's going on with our ice cream. Hopefully it's making some magic. And we'll just take it from there, like we always do. So we're going to take a peek at what's going on with our ice cream. It's not really doing all that much right now. But the bowl still feels cold. And we're about halfway through our 20 minutes in this stand mixer. So we'll take a peek. Yeah, it's not really doing all that much. I mean, it's just kind of mixing it around. So that's what it looks like still. It could be because it's super hot in here. So while I'm going to let this finish, it's 10 minutes. It's remaining 10 minutes on the clock. That's just enough time for you to like this video and subscribe to Sweetly Savory down in the little links below. We'll be back in a bit. Our 10 minutes is up and our ice cream hasn't really solidified all that much. But you know what? It's okay. We'll just stick it in the freezer and see what happens. I'm going to leave it in there overnight because it's so stinking hot. Nothing's going to freeze up in a couple of hours. It's okay. We'll just see what happens. It's going to come out tasty anyway because I did that little taste test and it was super yummy. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off. And when finished, ice cream will be set to soft. Yes, of course it will be. Super soft. It's still pretty milky in here. Now just go ahead and transfer this in. And I'm not even going to show you what it looks like because it's just pretty much the same. So here's one for the disaster books. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Hopefully this is a bit more frozen. Welcome back. It's the next day and we've got our dairy-free chocolate ice cream and it's completely solid in here. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit out and we'll do a little taste. This could be because mine had a harder time in the ice cream maker. It's kind of coming out in shards. But that's okay because it's homemade. That's like the whole theme here. All right, so here we go. Our homemade dairy-free chocolate ice cream. And let's give this a taste. It's not too sweet, because you would think putting like a third of a cup of honey in there would just make it super, super sweet, and it doesn't. And you could certainly use maple syrup or agave if you wanted as well for a lower glycemic index with that agave syrup, but honey does the trick for this. And it's not too bitter. A perfect amount of dark chocolate. It's just nice to have a sweet treat that you can make at home and know that it's dairy free. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish this off. Please go ahead, like and subscribe to Sweetly Savory. And yeah, we'll see you again next time and come up with something else that's super tasty. All right, we'll see you again next time. Bye.